Hello, my name's Lise. Welcome everybody to my top 9 Quentin Tarantino films. We're doing from the worst to the best Quentin Tarantino films. And here's the thing, everybody. There's not a single bad Quentin Tarantino film. I liked all the Quentin Tarantino films. I think they're all pretty fantastic. They're all great. They all have their own different stories. But I never really hated the Quentin Tarantino film. But Quentin Tarantino is one of my favorite directors of all time. But he has 9 films, and one of them, and even if it's the bottom of my list, it's still okay. It's like a B minus and up. Quentin Tarantino knows how to make good films. So let's start off with the worst. The worst is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Here's the thing. Margot Robbie and the whole Sharon Tate stuff with that whole family that killed Sharon Tate in the past and all this stuff was not needed. It to me was not needed. So many scenes is just a lot of them just driving around and showing how back then how the entire movie industry was, how Hollywood looked, and how the locations were, the sets, and all that stuff. I enjoy shit like that, but there's like so many scenes of them just driving around, listening to tones and all that stuff, and it's a beautiful looking film. It's just I love Rick Dalton. There was more Rick Dalton, Leonardo DiCaprio's character, a struggling actor who is struggling not to go down into being a has-been and all this stuff with his best friend Cliff Booth, his stunt double. It's a nice, but overall the story is. I would just have an entire story of just Leonardo DiCaprio's character as Rick Dalton with Cliff helping him around, played by Brad Pitt. But overall, I did not. I say I enjoyed this film. It's just I felt the problem is though with this film. I felt the pacing problem with this film. And for all the other Quentin Tarantino films, even though they're like 2 hours and a half, I never really felt bored. I never really felt like certain scenes are dragging a little bit too long. This movie dragged. And I mean dragged terribly, in my opinion. So to me, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is my ninth place pick. It's still a good film. It's a B minus, but I don't love it. Number 8, I'm going to give to The Hateful Eight. I used to have this film higher. It is a guilty pleasure of mine. I love Kurt Russell. I love that Kurt Russell's character is the hangman. He's here to execute this woman. He stays up in the cabin. He's with Samuel Jackson's character. And the thing is, though, there's a couple of people in the cabin, and somebody's not who they say it is, and someone's trying to free the woman who's going to be executed and all that stuff. So it's kind of like a mystery, like who's the guy, who's the one working with her and all this stuff, who are these different characters, different scenarios. I love this. I don't love this film. I really, really enjoyed this film. I think this was a very good film. It's a lot of entertainment, a lot of fun, but the problem is, though, there is some stuff that doesn't make no sense. When a certain character dies, and when a certain character dies, there's this one character who has his back who basically does nothing. It's just a lot of stuff. When you really look at it, the villain should have won in this film. And I'm sorry for spoiling that, but the villains do not win in this film in The Hateful Eight. But they easily could have won in so many different scenarios. I mean, they see one scene later on, we see a gun hidden underneath the table. You see one guy who had a gun on him the entire time, and I'm like, there's certain scenes where you're like, man, they could have got the drop on the good guys anytime. But to me, The Hateful Eight, very entertaining film, very good film, but not my favorite. Number 7, Death Proof. I love Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell in this movie is a piece of shit. He's a guy, he's a stuntman, he's Stuntman Mike. He's a great character. He, basically in this film, I love how this film starts off with this old school looking way of how they do filming and all this stuff. And then later on it goes to black and white for a short portion, and it goes to full on color. This is Kurt Russell in a car killing people mercilessly, especially women, and basically abusing them and all that shit. This guy's downright creep, downright scary, and he is kind of, to me, a very realistic character, a very realistic serial killer that Kurt Russell and Quentin Tarantino has portrayed on screen. And I love Death Proof. I thought it's a very good film. I was surprised how much I enjoyed it. This was actually the last Quentin Tarantino film that I saw. I saw all the others, but I'm like, you know what? Let me do a top 9 Quentin Tarantino film. Let's do worst to best, and let's see where Death Proof lands. And Death Proof, to me, was number 7. Pretty dang good film, B+. And number 6, now everyone's going to hate me for this, it's Pulp Fiction. I enjoy Pulp Fiction. I like a lot of stuff, but the thing is, though, I prefer more I wish I had more Samuel Jackson's character and John Travolta's character throughout this entire film. There's like three different stories. You got Samuel Jackson's character with Vincent and all that, with John Travolta's character and all that stuff. You got John Travolta dancing with Uma Thurman, and here's the thing: the whole scene with Uma Thurman and John Travolta, while I do enjoy it and there's nice conversation, it takes a good 45 minutes of the entire film. Their story takes a long time, and to me, it wasn't that interesting on it until the end. I enjoy it. This just wasn't all too special, and I don't really care the fact that John Travolta's character was there, and then, you know, what eventually happens to him. It's just like, that was pointless. I like Bruce Willis's character, what little we got of him. I love Marcellus Wallace. Certain scenes were just out of, like, loop and all that stuff, but to me, I enjoy Pulp Fiction. It was a great one for its time. I find it an A-. I find this film, though, to be honest with you, a little overrated. Samuel Jackson's character, again, was my favorite character of the entire freaking story. But to me, if they focus more on John Travolta and Samuel Jackson's character, I would prefer them. But to me, this film, not the greatest. Not the greatest of Quentin Tarantino, but it's one of the better films you're going to see. But not my favorite of the entire Quentin Tarantino films. Number 5, I'm going to give to Inglourious Basterds. I rewatched this film. Christoph Waltz character is a piece of shit. The Jew Hunter. This takes place basically during Hitler's time. Brad Pitt is hunting down Germans, scalping them, branding them, with all that stuff. He's trying to assassinate the freaking Hitler and all that stuff. During this time, the Christoph Waltz character is being hunted down by, well, not being hunted down, but basically a Jew woman that he spared, in a sense. After he massacred her family in the first 5 minutes, she swears revenge on him. Well, basically, she swears revenge on them, and she's planning to get some execution going around. So it's kind of like a warped version of history, but overall, to me, this movie was entertaining, fun, stressful, so tense. I mean, I love so many scenes. Some characters made some standout moments, some actors made some standout moments, like Michael Fassbender. I think everybody did a great job. Inglourious Basterds, it's just a fun, feel-good time. I enjoyed this film, and I would give it A- as well. Inglourious Basterds is my number 5 pick. My number 4 pick is not going to be Jackie Brown. This is such a guilty pleasure for me, Jackie Brown. When I first saw it, I loved every single moment about it. I love Jackie Brown because the character Jackie Brown is a very realistic stance of a woman who will go above and beyond just to get ahead in life. And also, it's a very realistic stance. She's not like an ultimate spy. She's not like a great a shooter and all this stuff. What she has is her brains. She's smart, she's beautiful in her own way, and she knows how to handle things. What she's going around is she's got caught by the cops based at the airport. She's a stewardess and all that stuff, and she works for a guy named Marcel Wallace. Not Marcel Wallace, oh my god, by Ordell. I want to say his name is Ordell. Samuel Jackson's character, and Samuel Jackson's character basically does this. He deals with drugs and all that stuff, and he uses Jackie, not drugs, but guns and all that shit, and he uses Jackie as a go-between and all that stuff. So he is about to kill her and all that stuff, so she's working away so she could get his money and screw the cops at the same time. So she's working with the cops, she's working with Samuel Jackson's character, and in some cases she's fallen in love with a bondsman named Max Cherry. There's some great moments of this entire movie. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. was in this film. Chris Tucker was in this film. There's a lot of great stuff I love about Jackie Brown. It's just an old school feel. It's not over the top action. It's not over the top. It's not over the top like blood everywhere and all this like Quentin Tarantino usually does. But to me, this was just a nice, normal change of pace film that kind of reminded me so much of Reservoir Dogs. Number 4, Jackie Brown. Number 3 is Reservoir Dogs. Quentin Tarantino's first film. I enjoyed the shit out of Reservoir Dogs. Mr. Pink, Mr. White, bank robbery gone wrong. People are trying to figure out who's the rat in this group. Everything's going to shit. Mr. Pink, Mr. White, Mr. Blue. Mr. Blue's a madman, and I believe his name is Mr. Blue. Played by Michaels, whatever. But either way, there's a lot of great stuff with this entire dang cast. It's not non-stop action, but from the first moment you see this film, it's entertaining, it's fun. I'll talk about Madonna's song, Like a Virgin It Really Is. Quentin Tarantino even starred in this film. This was his first film. It's a classic. It's great. Reservoir Dogs, number 3. My number 2 pick is Kill Bill Volume 1 and Volume 2. This, to me, is just a Quentin Tarantino counts it as one film. I'm counting it. We got Beatrix Kittle, the bride. She was shot in the head. She's out from her coma. She wants revenge over the man who killed her or who's tried to kill her on her wedding day, or like when she's about to get married and all that stuff. She's dressed up. She's shot, and all that stuff. She's sworn revenge about her. She's sworn revenge. She was a former assassin. She's getting revenge on the people who did this to her and her former partners and all that stuff. And she's out for revenge, and it's just a feel fun good time. It's Kill Bill. Bill, the guy that she loved, who killed her and all this stuff. We go through 5 enemies. The first movie deals with 2 enemies she has to deal with, and the second one she has to deal with 3. And it's just a great storytelling, and I love Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2. Uma Thurman, great as she was. The guy that played Bill, fantastic. Kill Bill Volume 1 and Volume 2. Great music choices. What can I say? Number 2. And my number 1 favorite Quentin Tarantino film is Django Unchained. Samuel Jackson is plays in that house N-word. He doesn't give a shit. What this movie is about is Django. He's freed by Christoph Waltz's character, Dr. King Schultz, and basically he helps him to become a bounty hunter. They become both bounty hunters. He agrees to pay him and also to search for his wife, and they'll work together and all that stuff. Jamie Foxx's character is great as Django. We get so much brutality, what happens with black people and during the slavery and all that stuff. There are some great, crazy moments. There's over-the-top action, over-the-top scenes, but it's fantastic. Leonardo DiCaprio's character was a straight-up villain, Calvin Candy, piece of shit. His slave best friend, his protector, Samuel Jackson, is just an asshole. Talk about betrayal to your race. This guy was the ultimate betrayer. And overall, I was so satisfied with this entire movie from beginning to end. I have hardly any other complaints about this one. There is one flaw, but to me, I still love Django Unchained, and I love Quentin Tarantino for making this film. And this is actually my second favorite Western movie of all time. So, Quentin Tarantino, great movies. I enjoy mostly every single one of them. I would say the only one I kind of don't like is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, just because I believe the pacing is off. But to me, I love a great deal of what Quentin Tarantino has done. He's a great actor. I mean, he's a great director. There's not much I could say other than I love Quentin Tarantino films. Let me know what y'all think. What do you think is the worst Quentin Tarantino film? You think it's Django Unchained? You think it's Reservoir Dogs? You think Pulp Fiction should have been a lot higher? What's your personal opinion, everybody? My name's Lisa. Everybody, bye.